welcome back to my podcast, Conversations with My Clients. Today, I am talking about a conversation I had with a client regarding calorie tracking. And the question was, how important is calorie tracking and how detailed do I need to get? So, calorie tracking has many benefits. It provides us an education on what we are putting into our bodies. And with education and knowledge comes food freedom. We might think there are things that, oh God, there's no way I could include that in my diet. And then you might actually learn what's in it and realize, oh, okay, that's actually not as bad as I was expecting. So it can give you a bit more food freedom in terms of what you can enjoy. It also helps us to move away from that really awful mentality of good foods versus bad foods. You know, food is food. It doesn't have a personality. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just molecules that get broken down in our body during the digestion process. So knowing what breakdown different foods have can take us away from that whole mindset where we think, oh, this is really bad, because you might look at its breakdown and go, it's not actually as bad as I thought it was. Likewise, when it comes to foods that you might think are good foods, you might say, oh, wow, that has more calories in than I realized. I'm going to moderate my portions around that. It is totally possible to gain weight eating a very, very, what we would consider healthy diet if you haven't got your portions correct. So it gives us education, it gives us freedom, and it helps move us away from quite toxic mindset traits. But how detailed do we need to be? Now, I've mentioned in a previous podcast that calories on food labels are not always accurate. It's really, really, really hard to track calories accurately. So you might be saying, well, why do we even bother to track calories at all? And even though there are variances in what we know and what we can track, it still gives us a rough ballpark of where we're at in terms of what we're consuming during the day. And if your goal is fat loss, we basically want to know that we're eating in a calorie deficit. So if we can get a rough ballpark figure that shows that we're in a deficit, that's fine. So the question from my client was, do I need to be weighing out my salad? Which sounds a bit too much. And it is. I don't want anybody to be sitting there weighing out their salad leaves or weighing out their cucumber or their celery. You know, it's a bit much, but it would be remiss of me to say it isn't worth tracking at all, because all foods do contain calories. So having a figure. So for example, if I'm eating salad, I would just say, cool, 80 calories. I'm not weighing my lettuce. I'm not making a decision whether my tomato is considered small or medium on my MyFitnessPal. Rough ballpark, my salad's about 80. That's it. That's as much detail as I'm going into. If you like to drink coffee or tea throughout the day and you're adding milk, you might say, cool, I'm having about 5 coffees, 20 mils each. I'm making this up. That's this many mils per day. That's this many calories. Cool. That's it. You're not tracking it. You don't have to track it every time. You've just got a rough ballpark idea for those things to include them. Now, when you are on a fat loss journey, if you do find that you do stall in your weight loss and you're not losing fat anymore, that's when we might start looking at being a little bit more detailed and saying, okay, are we sure that we are still in a calorie deficit? And that's where we might need to tighten things up in regards to weighing things and tracking things, because, you know, little things can creep in, which may surprise you. So that's when we might start to get a little bit more detailed. But as long as we're in our rough ballpark, and this is why if you're working with me, I'll always give you a calorie range to work within rather than a very specific number. So we can make sure that we're within a deficit, but we have that flexibility there as well. Now, is tracking something that you have to do forever? Because let's be honest, it can be boring. It can be a bit of a ball ache. And if you are paying attention to what you're doing when you're tracking, it doesn't have to be something that you do forever. I don't really track my calories anymore, and that's because I know pretty much how to eat to sustain me. I know what works for me. And if I'm really honest, I eat pretty much the same foods every day, or at least the same structure every day. So I will always have breakfast, and I basically just have two options for breakfast. I have overnight oats or I have overnight wheat bix. And that's me. I know exactly what the portions look like. I don't need to weigh anything out. I know what the calories are. I know how much protein is in them. I know that they are a very nice, diverse range of foods. So I'm getting all of my good plant-based things for my gut health. So I'm very happy that these meals are appropriate for me. I'm not weighing them every time. I'm not tracking them every time because I know that they work in my structure for how I eat. My lunches are all very similar. They all follow the same structure of protein, veggies, carb. I know roughly what my portions need to be in order to work. So again, I'm not weighing things out. I'm not tracking things. So having a plan at the front end of your week can really help you to move away from tracking. So I will sit down on a Sunday, I will write my meal plan for the week, I'll write my shopping list, I'll buy exactly what I need, and then throughout the week, I just follow my meal plan. I don't overthink it, and it works for me. I don't have to track everything. It works, but that's because I've paid attention, and it's because I did do the tracking work initially. If I ever decide to make a new recipe, which does happen on occasion, even though cooking for me is extremely stressful and I'm not sure I get the enjoyment out of it that other people do that do it as a career or as a hobby, but on occasion I will try a new recipe. And this is where tracking comes in handy. I will track that recipe so I can know what is an appropriate portion for me. And then going forward, if I remake that recipe, if it was a success, then I know how much I am going to have for myself. So you can bring tracking in as a tool to help you, again, improve your life and bringing different things into it. So you don't just become a person that eats exactly the same things all the time. So hopefully that has been helpful. Yes to tracking. Yes, it's helpful. We don't want to go super detailed unless we are trying to figure out if you are still in a suitable deficit for your goal. You can move away from tracking once you start paying attention and know what it is that is in each of your meals, and moving to a kind of more meal plan type arrangement means you can eat really well within your goals, lose weight, but without having to do all of that extra work every day. So hopefully that has been helpful. If you have any questions about any of this, or if there is anything you'd like me to talk about in the future, please do get in touch. Otherwise, I will see you next time. Ciao.